Hello, friends. Happy Monday. Happy Monday. I hope you had a good weekend and good morning, good afternoon, good evening, happy time zone wherever you are. And I hope the weather is okay wherever you are as well. I'm streaming a little bit later than I usually do. To my fellow Canadians, happy Victoria Day, long weekend. It's a holiday here. So we're just taking things a little bit slower. My kids are home, but my husband's watching over them. So hopefully, no distractions. But I didn't stream last Wednesday. Usually I stream Monday and Wednesday if I can. And I wasn't able to do Wednesday because my mother in law was here for 2 weeks. And she flew back to New Zealand over the weekend. And so, it's kind of been like trying to get back into routine and stuff. So it's nice to have visitors, but, of course, it sort of throws you out of routine and you kind of have to get going with it. VH2D, how's it going, friend? How was your weekend? How have you been? Tsukika, how's it going? Notice that you followed. Thanks so much for the follow and welcome in. Yeah, so Victoria Day long weekend, May 2-4 if you're in Ontario, or May long if you're, elsewhere in Canada, whatever you call it. Hopefully, you've had a good long weekend and hopefully it's going to be a gentle start into the week. And hopefully it's spring wherever you are. Well, if you're, if it is spring for you. Hopefully the weather is kind of behaving itself because we've been up and down here in BC. It's been cold, it's been hot, it's been in between. But today we have sun. Yesterday we had sun as well. So my husband was barbecuing, which is always kind of nice to take advantage of nice weather, be outside, be outdoors, right? You're a physical and digital reminder of 3 things. Get Pilot Tsukio. Oh, Manyo Akebi. Chujitsu. Oh, amazing. You sound like spicy miso. That's amazing. I am well, thank you. That's awesome, VH2D. Just received a Jet Pens parcel. That's always fun. Hopefully, you enjoy whatever you acquired. Feel free to share with us what you got if you want to. But yeah, it's always kind of nice to get a stationery Happy Meal, isn't it? I'm waiting for a couple of things myself, which should probably come tomorrow because today is a holiday, so there's no mail. There's no mail delivery, but I am waiting for a few things that I'm really excited about. One of those being Tom Studio tools. So hopefully on my Wednesday stream, I'll try and do some unboxing or at least go over some of the things that I got. And yeah, we can kind of talk about it. You're miso reborn from spicy ashes. I love it. I'm going to call you Tsuki. Because, yeah, I love that. Tsukio is my fave. We all know that. Maybe not a Kebi, but Tsukio is one of my faves, so. Platinum, black, yeah, diamond, espresso, coloring cards. That's always good, right? Have you been using coloring cards for ink samples? Yeah, because, you get to a point where you have to get more, which is always exciting if you're growing your collection or if you're starting and you sort of want to set up a swatch system. That's always fun too. The reason I made a second account is I followed too many accounts and I was getting overwhelmed. Hey, it's, you know what? You got to do what you got to do, right? Some people have more than one accounts just to kind of divide things. Yeah, divide everything by making a second account. Keep things a little separate sometimes too, right? Like especially if you're following different types of accounts or streams, right? You got stationery, you got gaming, you got all sorts of different things. It can get overwhelming, and then you get notifications about streams going live on all sorts of different things. So, but we got you. We got you. Yeah, let me know what you've been up to as well. Things are kind of getting a little bit busier, especially with spring and, summer on the horizon and school ending. July and August are vacation months from school here. So, it's just one of those things. Also, pen shows. Um, Lots of things to look forward to. Also, lots of things to kind of, get through and enjoy and experience. But today, as I like to do on my Monday streams, we're going to be drawing flowers. So I'll show you how I use markers or Tombow dual brush pens specifically, and how I use them to blend and also use a similar effect to watercolor. And we'll do a little bit more drawing and coloring, I guess. So it will be very relaxing. It won't be, I don't like my Mondays to be intense. So if you'd like to chat about anything stationery related, feel free to throw it in the chat. If you have any questions, throw it in the chat. Always to kind of always happy to chat, draw, do some art, and just hang out, right? So if you're joining for the first time, I'm Corolla. On socials, I'm from Corolla. And I like all things stationery. I like to draw and paint abstract flowers. And I also like to do flower drawing practice. And love painting with watercolor paints and fountain pen inks as well. And I like to share my process and just kind of encourage people to play with their stationery whenever they can, make time for it. And so you can find me on Instagram, YouTube, Twitch, etc., Substack as well. And I like to share things about art and stationery and planners and journals, and all sorts of fun things. So if you're here, thank you so much for joining. If you're lurking or, just hanging out, and kind of in and out, or if you're watching the replay, thank you so much. Appreciate you being part of this community. So, what I wanted to do today was actually draw more flowers that I saw in Victoria. So me and my family went to Victoria last weekend for a couple of days. Victoria is, to get to Victoria, you have to take a ferry from the mainland Vancouver to Vancouver Island, unless you live there. But for most of us, we have to take the ferry across. And it is beautiful. The islands are gorgeous, lots to explore. And Victoria is also where Parliament is. So, lots of tourism, lots of things to look at and experience and stuff. But one of the things they have is the Butchart Gardens. And it is a curated, huge, different gardens put together that are maintained perfectly and that draw a lot of people in because they have themes. And so, depending on what types of flowers or botanicals you're into, they probably have it. And it's really just fun to explore and see all sorts of flowers and plants. And so I really enjoyed that. Knowing me, right? I'm really into florals. And so last Monday, I drew these Triumph tulips and English daisies. And that was based on a photo that I took at the gardens. And this week I want to draw another type of tulip because there were so many tulips that were so beautiful. And so I took another photo that I wanted to use as a reference photo for drawing practice today. But also something I picked up from the gardens was this nice booklet of just, all the different flowers and plants that they have at the gardens. And I thought, what a great reference for, practicing drawing these flowers. And so I think what I might end up doing is sort of flip through this and pick out something that I like maybe for next week. And then try and find reference photos that will give me a little bit more to draw from. So that's something you can do too if you go somewhere and, they have booklets or pamphlets or something like that that you can pick up and draw from them as reference. So hello friends, hello everyone, welcome in. Yeah, I totally get it. Using Colodex for bottles, coloring for samples, and to help me figure out an ink and the pen I forgot to log. Yeah. That's a great idea. That's a great way of using those. You have questions. I tried to do a swatch book with airfoil paper but faced some bleeding. Oh no, I'm guessing if swatching is done, back of the page going to be unusable. In general, yes. It depends on the kind of paper you're using, but if you're swatching, you're obviously putting a lot of ink down, a lot of concentrated ink in one spot. And so I kind of just assume that the other side is going to be unusable at the very least, like you'll have a little bit of ghosting or some of the ink color coming through. And the last thing you want to do is swatch on top of that with a different ink, right? So with my, when I do swatching, I generally just assume that it's going to be a one-sided swatch page. But Fountain Pen News, how's it going? How was your weekend? How are you doing? How's your hand doing? One time I was in Victoria and accidentally walked out onto a private dock. You got chased off by some angry dudes. Yeah. Angriest Canadians. Listen, don't let our politeness and kindness fool you. Canadians can be very aggressive. That's also where Canada geese get their aggression from. So if you have ever encountered a Canada goose or, just geese in general, especially the ones from Canada, can be very aggressive and very territorial. So, hey, it's one of those traits. Butchart Gardens was a cool place. Yeah, it is very cool, isn't it? Absolutely one of your best memories. That's so awesome. I've never been, but because my mother-in-law was visiting, we took her along with us to the islands, and that was one of the places that she had heard about and wanted to visit. And so we thought, yeah, of course, we'll take a look. And so I'm glad we went there because it's definitely a beautiful place, well maintained. And you can tell just by walking around that people who are caring for these gardens know what they're doing, and they put a lot of care into it. So I know. I mean, people are gonna be who they are. I post a photo to Insta about your hand. It's bananas. Oh no. I know. I mean, we feel for you. We feel for you. So hopefully, sending healing vibes, and hopefully it doesn't take too long to get your ability back that you can use your hand, right? And enjoy your fountain pens, right? Especially your new acquisitions. All right, so let me show you what I want to practice drawing today. So all to say that because it is a holiday here in Canada, my kids are home, and we have plans for the day. I won't be streaming for too long. Probably for about an hour. So, but we'll get lots done and we'll do a lot of chatting. So it is all good. So what I wanted to draw today was, this is a picture I took at the Butchart Gardens. And these are tulips, but they're a type of fringe tulips. So it just means that they have this fringe look along the petals. Very, very cool. I have never seen this in person before. So, I thought that was very, very unique and a different kind of tulip. So I'd love practicing the shape of a tulip, but adding a unique look to it or attributes to it is very interesting. So that's what I wanted to draw. And the first thing I do when I am drawing something from reference and I want to add color is I pick out the colors. And so I have my Tombow dual brush pens here, a whole lot of them. So I'm just going to pick out some colors and then I can put this away. Let's see. And what I usually do is I pick out 4 or 5 different colors that I can kind of blend and mix to get this palette. So it doesn't necessarily have to be Doesn't necessarily have to be the exact colors of what is in the photo, but something similar would be good because it is a palette that I really like. So, especially because it's spring, right? Like we have to do bright and fun flowers if we can. So, I think I'll go with this green and maybe a darker version as well. And then for the tulips, I love that there's this pink and red on the petal, which is really nice. So we're gonna try and grab some bright pink or bright red colors. So this will be one of them. And then there's also yellow and orange. So I don't have a lot of choices in terms of yellow, but that's okay. I think we'll use that and then also add in an orange. Maybe a deeper yellow. And that's all right. So I think we'll go with these colors for now. I'm just going to move these markers so my camera might shake. Okay. All right, so you can see my reference and you can see what I'm drawing. And the notebook that I'm using is the Canopus note from Yamamoto papers. So it's Canopus paper, which I've only been using for a couple of weeks now. But I have found it to be very, very nice for markers. It's smooth textured, so it's very easy to, you know, get that smooth look, especially when you're using markers and brush tips. And I find that it's vibrant, it sort of reflects those colors back. So I enjoy it. All right, so I'm also, on top of using dual brush pens, I'm also using a blending palette. So this is what's gonna help me get those smooth colors because I'm going to add the marker colors onto the blending palette and then use a colorless blender, which is also from Tombow. It is essentially a dual brush pen without any color on it. And so what you use these brushes for, or these markers for, is to pick up color and transfer them onto paper. And so the reason why you would do that is for blending purposes, for mixing colors that you might not have in as a marker, or just to get that smooth effect that will make it look a little bit more like you were watercolor painting versus using a marker, which will show the strokes, the marker strokes, if you put it directly onto paper. And it's just kind of a nice effect. So just adding my colors onto the blending palette. Just wherever, as long as they're not overlapping. So I have some space to kind of mix colors if I wanted to, and also pick them up without smearing colors together. So that's the palette. Good morning, Omaha Dad Games. How's it going? You never get tired of Midori papers? Yeah, me neither. Me neither. I like them. MD. If you haven't listened to the Pen Addict podcast episode from last week, Brad had April on from Designville, and she walks through the difference between, you know, the like Midori, Traveler's Company, and Plotter, how they sort of ladder up into Designville, and then also, you know, the difference between MD paper products, etc., etc. I'm still confused about what I'm supposed to call it, but I thought it was really interesting. And in the moment, I thought, you know what, this makes lots of sense. And then after, I was like, I don't know. Is it MD paper? MD paper products? I don't know. I'm just going to call it whatever. MD notebook. So yes, but I agree. MD paper is great paper. So what I'm going to start... usually how I start actually, when I look at a reference photo and I want to kind of practice drawing, you know, different aspects of it, is I'm not going to draw this whole thing. It's just too much. And I think usually when we look at something and we want to draw that, what we get caught up in is the sheer amount of things to consider. So there's a lot of flowers. There's, you know, large flowers, small flowers. There's different colors. There's different shapes. And so what I like to do is hone in on 3 to 5 flowers maybe that I want to capture that will sort of reflect or represent the photo. So I don't need to draw every single flower, every single leaf or stem or everything that I see in the photo. But what I do want to do is spend time on, you know, 3 of those flowers and really try and represent what I'm seeing in terms of color, shape, you know, perspective, things like that. So that's how I kind of tackle photos and trying to draw, you know, based on one. And it doesn't have to be a perfect photo, right? Like this is just kind of picking, it doesn't have a full view of all the flowers in the photo, but it's fine. I just wanted to kind of represent the shape and get those colors and stuff like that. Just to, you know, practice drawing something that is a little bit different from what I see in real life. So that's how I kind of look at this in terms of composition. Like that's how I'm going to represent that. And then I like to start with lighter colors first and then layer on darker colors. You can do it differently if you want to, but for me, I just find it a little bit easier to use lighter colors and color and draw in basic shapes. And then that way, when I'm layering darker colors on top, it's more so just to add a little bit of dimension and a little bit more, you know, of the different palette that I see here, without worrying too much about having the exact right shape or the exact right design on paper. So it's a little less pressure, I find, if I'm starting with, you know, a yellow or a light shade versus a dark shade, and then I can kind of build from there. So that's kind of my explanation of how I would start. And then I just start. So what I'm going to color in or draw first is the shapes and some of the fringe look, which is really, really cool. And then the shape is a basic tulip shape, right? So you kind of have these petals that are really wide, but as your perspective is, you know, of the side petals as well, you kind of have to take that into account as well. So that's how I basically tackle that. So instead of drawing the flower first, I add color first. But in me drawing or adding color, I'm actually incorporating the shape of what I want it to look like. And so building that is helpful because after I'm done and I go in with a fine liner to add in a little bit more detail, just to point out, where the petals start and end, etc. It makes it a little bit easier for me to know, where I need to put those lines. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw one, this, and probably this. So maybe 3, and then we'll see how much time we have. Just because I like that you can see sort of a little bit of the center or the, the seeds sort of popping up there. And then you have the side profile of the flower here and here, but the colors look really cool and different so that they're not going to look the same. And that's kind of interesting. So there's no real head-on shot of the flower, which is fine. If I had that, I probably would incorporate that as well, but it's okay. I'm going to add a little bit of orange, some of this darker color, which may not be orange enough, but let's just go with it. Maybe I'll grab an orange. Let's see. Let's add a little bit of that. Fountain pen companion, yeah. I also use that. It's been around for a little while. I actually don't know how long, but I've been using it for the past year or so. So maybe not for too long, but yeah, it is a great resource for inks, cataloging them, but also if you're wanting to see someone else's ink collection, they can just share the link to their fountain pen companion, and you can check out their FBC. This is your hand fountain pen use. Elaborate taping job. Oh wow, that is elaborate. Oh my. I like the design though. But oh, yeah. That would make it very hard to use for sure. I want to ask, since you use flex pens a lot. Oh, fountain pen use. Do you find flex pens shades too much, even making the inks a little darker? Interesting question. Most of your inks are brown. Well, there you go. Then it's easy. All right, now I'm going to add a little bit of this bright pink. So let's layer some of that in there. And I think a little in here. Very pink, very dark. Okay. All right, and then one more up here. I think I could make this a little bigger actually. Let's see. Okay, it's a little bit bigger. All right, now we have a third one up here. So let's do it maybe here. Okay, let's do this wider. All right. And I'm going to add the stems. So just going to draw a line down. You writing in block letters does not help. The physio tape is the bomb. It's called dynamic tape. Yeah, it's you know what? Like, the situation sucks, but the design is very cool. You got your hands on KWZ Honey and Tasha again? Amazing. They're incredibly beautiful. Yeah. Well, I'm happy for you. You found something that you like and it is available. So that's good. All right, let's draw some tulip leaves in the background. Maybe I'll draw some in the background here as well. Hi, Derek. What's that ink that you're using currently? I'm using Tombow dual brush pens or markers, and they basically look like this, very broad brush pens. They're water-based, and so what you can do is you can use them like you would almost like watercolor paint. And I basically just colored on this blending palette, which is a sort of shiny surface. And now I'm using a colorless blender from Tombow to pick up each color and just kind of blend them into the paper. And by doing this, you can see that it has a softer effect than you would if you just use the markers directly on paper. And you see less of those brush strokes or marker strokes that you would otherwise. So it's kind of just, a little bit more of a complicated way of coloring with markers, but it's also kind of fun. So trying to get those different colors and blend them as well is really, really fun. So yes, Queen of Washi, thank you. It is Tombow dual brush pens. Darker inks. Darker inks. Yes, yeah. So it's not paint, but the way that the Tombow markers work is that they're water based. So you can do a lot of the blending and mixing that you can with paints, except that obviously it's not paint, so you'll see that. I don't know where I was going with that. But it's a mess-free way of doing it, is what I was going to say. So if you only have, markers on hand, or you just kind of want to do a quick art session without taking all your paints and stuff like that out, this is kind of an easier way, maybe, of being able to paint and get that blended look without using all your paints. But I am drawing based on a reference photo of fringe tulips that I took when we visited the Butchart Gardens in Victoria, BC. So I thought that would be kind of nice to try and capture a little bit of this color, even though it is darker, and it looks a lot darker on the screen as well. But it is darker, which is fine. But I did want to kind of play with the colors and this sort of bright and fun palette. So I think I'm happy with this, except that I might add a little bit more dark color to this, just because it is, like, I do want to capture a little bit more of this bright, really fun pink color, pink red. So I'm going to do that directly by coloring with the marker, but you can see right away it's a lot darker when you use marker directly on paper, obviously. And it's harder to control where that color ends up, in the way that if you make strokes and you kind of, build it out, and then you're like, oh no, I actually don't want it to be this dark, it's a little bit harder to correct that than if you were blending those colors in and layering them with a colorless blender. It would be a little bit easier to soften this up. So depending on the paper you're using, you might be able to continue playing with the color a little bit to kind of soften it. But, this isn't marker paper. This is Canopus, and it's meant to sort of, to write on or to use your fountain pen inks and kind of move on. It's not meant to continue to layer and play with colors and stuff like that. It's not watercolor paper or anything like that either. So you have to be a little bit aware of just, if you're putting color down, it might kind of stay that way. So, but it's all part of the fun, I think. you know, of just trying to play with color and trying to capture a photo, and trying to get those details in. So it doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be, you know, what a representation of what you want to get from that photo. So yes, you can soften up the color a little bit, but not too much, I don't think. So I wanted to add a little bit of that. And then I also want to add a little bit of the orange, maybe to darken up where the shadows fall. So I'll try and do that. A little bit here too. So let's see if I can. And then a little orange here. Okay. Okay. Oh. It helps that the fringes look like they're just like marker lines. So I think I can kind of get away with making it look a little bit more like that. And same with here. All right, so I think we have the colors, sort of, mostly. I'm gonna add in the palette here so that I know what colors I used. I didn't realize those tulips had so much texture. Yeah, Jack Toy. I have never seen these types of tulips before. And they're called fringe, or like the type of tulip is a fringe tulip. And it's just because they have these like sort of feathery look to them. And they're like actual, pieces. I don't know. I don't know how it's possible. But they grow these sort of furry or fuzzy textures to them, and I thought that was very, very cool because I've never seen these in like out in the wild or something. But I imagine they need a little bit of maintenance. Also, how are you, friend? We need brown, yeah. Just swatch Diamine Espresso. Looks like a good amount of shading. That's awesome. I don't have that ink, but I have seen it. It's really nice. Yeah. Yeah, these fringe tulips, if you missed it, this is a photo from tulips that were in the Butchart Gardens in Victoria, BC. And so, yeah, it's just like, this is a brochure that I picked up from there. And they have all sorts of different flowers and plants and trees that they maintain in, they have different sections that are dedicated to different types of flowers and plants. And so, they're kind of themed in a way, just based on the different, sunlight versus shade, and also watering and things like that. Like how high maintenance some plants are versus low maintenance for others. And it's very, very interesting and very cool. So a lot of plants that I have never seen before at the gardens that, just kind of blew me away in terms of like variety, right? Like even just thinking about the types of tulips that are out there and the variety of what they could look like is like mind-blowing. So yes, they may have the general shape of a tulip, but the details and the textures and colors is kind of cool. Oh, similar fuzzy look. Oh, interesting. I think those types of tulips are called parrot because they look feathery. Yeah, I did see that. When I looked them up, Queen of Washi, I did see parrot as one of the alternate ways of calling them as well. Um, so yeah, definitely. I think you're thinking of the same thing. Good, you're resting from Stationery Park on Saturday. Yes, I saw a little bit about that. How was it? Busy, I'm assuming. And it was in LA, I think, right? Fringe and parrot are separate types of tulips. Yeah. Or, yeah, like just, yeah, different types of tulips or a variation of tulips. They're very easy to grow. You got your... Oh, okay. So there you go. They may not need a lot of maintenance. It's just funny. I guess you have to find the bulbs or, be able to grow them in the first place. But once you do, it's probably... Like, I assume where they were also was just among other tulips. And so, lots of sunlight and watering and stuff like that. But I didn't think that they needed like an extra step of maintenance or anything like that. So I think it's just a matter of get these tulips, plant them, and then care for them. I might have to. I don't know. I find them so cool, like just so different. You can't grow them in Texas without heat treating. Yeah. Same with daylilies. Hey Mark, how's it going? Yeah, it was in Santa Monica. Okay, it was busy. First time going. That sounds like so much fun. Yeah, they look great, right? The colors I thought, were very bright and cheery and fun. So perfect for spring or summer. So yeah. $9.46. So these are the dual brush pen colors that I used to get these different colors and blending and general palette. So I don't want to forget. Okay, so there we go. And now I'm just going to, now that I have the color down and I have the basic shapes and how it's sort of laid out, I'm going to add some details, and I'm going to use a Tombow mono drawing pen in their very finest 005 tip. So the point of using a fine liner on top is just to add a little bit of detail so that, you know, when you're looking at this, you can kind of see where the petals sort of shape and start and stuff like that. But I don't want to take away from the color that I've put down. So that's why I use a very, very fine point. Because, yeah, I don't want, you know, a black line to be the focal point here. And also it's another way for me to practice the shapes of a tulip. And so if in the future I want to draw a tulip just from memory or just, you know, just for fun, even if it's an abstract tulip, what I find is the more that I draw from reference, the more I'm able to pull from memory in terms of what it actually looks like. And it makes it a lot easier, and I feel a lot more confident doing so, knowing that I've drawn that, you know, tulip shape before, and it's not that hard. It's not that hard to sort of get that tulip, the tulip petals. And the more you do it, the more confident you feel. So even the tulip leaves, which are very broad and long, they really stand out. So that's always kind of nice to practice as well. So there's that. And then we have this one, which is kind of down here. But I like it because it has all these sort of fringe petals to it. And then we have this one, it's kind of peeking out as well. I was at home the other day and they had snapdragons. I forgot how cool those are. That's awesome, Mark. I love that it was in collab with Takumi Alley and the art of Okaya Stationery. Oh, I've never heard of either, but that's awesome. I'll look them up for sure. That's very cool. Daylilies grow well in southern Colorado. Good to know. Yeah. Focus, dry, commit, grow. Yeah. Yeah. Most people skip step 2 and say I'm not talented enough for that. Yeah. Try step 2 and most of the time you'll be surprised at how it turns out. Better each time. Yeah. That's exactly it. A lot of times too, I find people don't trust their natural instincts and and just their creativity enough, right? A lot of times I think we sort of overthink what we're trying to do, especially when it comes to art and music and anything that's sort of in the bounds of creativity. Because, you can have the technical aspect down and you can have technical skills when it comes to drawing. So knowing, angles and all those other things. But I think when it comes to, drawing or being creative, a lot of it is just a natural instinct. And being able to trust your hand to do something while your mind is kind of yelling at you going, no, that's not the way you do it, is really, really hard. Because I find that the mind sort of overrides a lot of things and we tend to be a lot louder about the negative when it comes to art and also the challenges. And yes, it may not look perfect, but I think we kind of have to get over the fact that everything has to look perfect. And I think flowers are the best way of sort of showing that, because there are no perfect flowers in nature. There are no perfect plants in nature. Nothing grows perfectly. There will always be, ripped petals or where they're kind of squashed in places or folded over or folded in. And I like capturing that because it's such a great reflection of nothing is perfect, right? And us, when we try and put that pressure on ourselves to draw it perfectly and it's never gonna look like someone else's drawing, probably someone who's been doing it for years, someone who's been practicing and doing the thing for years and years and years, for hours and hours on end. And when you sort of pick up something for the first time or second time and you expect yourself to be at that level of confidence and knowing what you're doing, I think a lot of times we kind of talk ourselves out of it, out of the doing and out of the trying, just based on that. Like, yeah, you can never have 20 years of experience in your first time trying something. And I think that's the whole point, right? Is that we keep going regardless and we keep doing it. And then at some point it's going to feel more comfortable and you're going to feel the confidence come through. And even then, right? Like I've been doing this for years and doing it live or on stream is still kind of nerve-wracking because I know that, at some point I could feel like this is not turning out the way that I envisioned it or that I wanted it to turn out. And it's still sort of a mindset thing where I have to get over it in terms of like, I don't really care what the end product or the end piece looks like. What I do care is showing the process and showing how easy it can be to get certain colors that you want and to get certain shapes that you want. And then push yourself because, a tulip shape may be, a certain shape. But when you take into account fringe edges or ripped edges or something that's out of the norm of what you expect, it can challenge you. And I think that's part of it, is challenging yourself and and going anyways. Just keep going. And at some point, you have to kind of put it aside and say, this is what I created, right? From nothing. It was a blank piece of paper and I created something. And I think we need to feel good about that. Find 50-50 success rate per plant is common for gardening, but you learn either way, right? You learn either way. I think that's a really good way of looking at it. My drawing teacher used to say, draw what you see, not what you know. Yeah, draw what you see. Even if it's different from, what you expect it to be, for sure. And the way that I do it is always I break it down to simple steps, right? Or simple shapes, simple lines. Like, it doesn't need to be more complicated than what you're comfortable with. It can be very simple. You can doodle this and it still could be your representation of what you see. And that's totally fine. It doesn't have to look exactly like how someone else would draw the exact same photo. And I think that's what makes it really, really interesting and really, really fun. So I think I'm good. I'm good with that. I'm happy with the way it looks. I think that the way that the fringe sort of looks is very, very cool. And probably not something I would expect a tulip to look like, for sure. If I looked at this and thought, that does not look like a tulip, it's because it's a certain type of tulip, and it's really fun to capture it that way. Every work of art is an accomplishment. Yeah. And regardless of, what it looks like, I think just the fact of doing is really, really important. And spending time doing art, doing something creative, it doesn't have to be drawing or painting or anything like that. Just doing something that's creative, where you don't know what the end result is going to be or what it's going to look like because you're actually doing it. Once you're done, I always find this sense of sense of calm, sense of like, phew, I did it. And whether or not I like it or it looks good or whatever, I don't think that's the point of it. I think the point is the act of doing itself, taking out your stationery, taking out your tools. If you haven't painted in a long time, take out your paints. Just do it. Just do the thing. Take out your tools that you haven't been practicing with for a while, and just practice. Like, let that be what you do today, or when you have time, make time for it, and in that time, just let the act of practice be the accomplishment, be the thing that you actually did with that time. And I think for me, it's worth it. Regardless of whether I would share this on social media or share it with friends or take a photo of it or whatever. If at the very least you close your book and put it away, just think, at least you did it. At least you did the practice today. And the more you practice, the more confident and comfortable you're going to feel, the more natural it's going to come to you. In the way that, when we look at artists or, people who do certain things over and over again, and that is their creative practice, a lot of times when we look at that, we kind of see the end result of years or hours of them doing that over and over again. And it's that practice that will get you to where you actually want to be. So continue to practice, take out your stationery, go play with them, go have some fun. If you've never, tried brush markers for coloring or drawing or just getting color onto paper, try doing that. Take out your brush markers or your markers, add some color to your page, try them in different ways that you might normally use them. And yeah, you might be surprised. You might be actually... you might find that it's something that's really fun and something that you want to try. And gives you some excitement again. So anyways, friends, I am gonna get out of here. But it's been really, really fun drawing these tulips. I've had this photo for, a week and a half or whatever. And I really wanted to try and draw them similar to last week's Triumph tulips. Again, really, really pretty tulips, very colorful, very fun, very vibrant. I kind of like the texture of these ones where it's so different. Nothing that I have seen before, but a different type of tulip. So that's kind of fun. And hopefully, encourages you to try capturing something that you've seen or taken a photo of. And you don't have to do it in the moment. If you don't want to, you can take a photo and try doing it later. But try and capture what you see in the photo, practice drawing it in whatever style or way that you want to, and have some fun with it. So I will be streaming on Wednesday again at 9 a.m. Pacific. So back to my regular schedule for now anyways. Who knows? And we might do some stationery unboxing if I get my mail in time, or we'll do currently inked fountain pens, because I need to do that once a month, and I will probably do it this Wednesday. So if you can join me, that would be awesome. If you're watching the replay, again, appreciate you, friends. Geez, how's it going? So pretty, thank you. I did view landscapes while on vacation. That's awesome, Mark. You're not too experienced with landscapes. Neither am I, but it's kind of fun, isn't it? You glad you did it? Yeah. I try working on some more at home, adding some more depth and value. Yeah, you could do, you could add to things as you go as well, right? Like I've done sort of sketches in the moment, and then later I'm like, I can add some color to it, or I can add some details that now I have time for. And yeah, definitely you can do that. What else? I think that's it. Yeah, I hope you have a good weekend. Good week. Canadians, have a great holiday Monday. Happy Victoria Day, and May 2 for a long weekend. And yeah, hopefully you have a great rest of your week. I'll see you on Wednesday. If not, I'll see you in other streams. Remember, go play with stationery, friends. Go have some fun. Go enjoy the outdoors if it's nice out. And I'll see you soon. Okay, bye.